In every town, there is a name whispered, not spoken, a name surrounded by silence, loss, and questions that no one dares to ask out loud. Sumaiya. This name, devoid of a past, unattached to any family tree, drifts through communities like an ethereal mist, leaving a chill in its wake. It's a name that surfaces in hushed conversations, in tales told by firelight, each retelling adding another layer to an already impenetrable enigma. Who is she? Or perhaps more accurately, what is she? The answers, if they exist, are buried deep beneath a mountain of fear and speculation. No last name, no records, just shadows. This is not a myth. This is a chronicle of encounters, vanishings, and the unknown. We've searched archives, scoured databases, spoken to those who claim to have seen her, yet she remains a cipher, an outline without substance. Each lead dissolves into another dead end. Each witness account adds more contradictions than clarity. The only consistent thread is the unsettling feeling she leaves behind, a sense of profound displacement, of something ancient and unknowable brushing against the fabric of our reality. She is a ghost in the machine of everyday life, a persistent anomaly. Tonight, we tell the story they buried, a story pieced together from fragmented memories, from chilling testimonies, and from the unsettling evidence that suggests Sumaiya is far more than a figment of collective imagination. We invite you to join us as we explore the unsettling legend of this girl who seems to exist outside the boundaries of normal existence. But you must listen carefully, because once you hear the truth, she might hear you too. The veil is thin, and some names, once spoken, have a way of attracting attention. The mystery of Sumaiya begins, as all lives ostensibly do, with birth. Yet, for Sumaiya there is no record of such an event. No birth certificate bears her name in any hospital, in any town where she has reportedly been seen. It's as if she materialized from the ether, a fully formed enigma. Officials, when pressed, offer only bewildered shrugs and empty files. School registrars find no enrollment papers, doctors no medical history. She is a phantom in the system, a ghost in the archives, her existence documented only in the unsettled minds of those who claim to have crossed her path. How can someone exist, interact, and leave such a profound impact, yet possess no official trace of ever having been born? Perhaps even more perplexing is her appearance, described with an eerie consistency by witnesses separated by decades and miles. Sumaiya, they say, never seems to age. Photographs, though rare and unsettlingly prone to distortion, depict a girl of indeterminate youth, her eyes holding a depth that belies any single age. A retired teacher from a small, now abandoned rural school spoke of a Sumaiya in her class in the late 1970s, a quiet, watchful child. Years later, visiting a neighboring town, she saw the same girl, unchanged, staring from a crowd. The teacher, a pragmatic woman, was shaken to her core, convinced she had seen something that defied natural law. This eternal static youth is a cornerstone of Sumaiya's legend, adding another layer to her inexplicable presence. The unsettling nature of Sumaiya often first manifests in the observations of children, their perceptions unclouded by adult skepticism. Throughout various accounts, a recurring detail emerges from their innocent testimonies. Sumaiya, they claim, has no shadow. Playgrounds fall silent as children point to the space where her shadow should be, a void under the bright sun or the harsh fluorescent lights of a school hallway. One small boy, after an encounter, was reportedly found muttering, "The light goes through her, but it doesn't stop." A simple yet profoundly chilling observation. His parents dismissed it as childish fantasy, yet the detail, repeated by others, begins to paint a disturbing picture. This peculiar characteristic, the absence of a shadow, might be dismissed as folklore, were it not for a piece of grainy security footage from a local community center. The footage, captured on a summer afternoon, shows several children playing. Among them, a girl matching Sumaiya's description moves with an unnerving grace. As the sun shifts, the shadows of the other children lengthen and dance. But where Sumaiya stands, the ground remains inexplicably unaltered. Technicians who examined the footage found no evidence of tampering, no logical explanation for the phenomenon. The visual proof, however indistinct, lends a terrifying credence to the children's whispers. Sumaiya casts no shadow because perhaps she is not entirely of this world. One of the most harrowing chapters in Sumaiya's chronicle unfolded during a total solar eclipse that cast a premature darkness over several towns. As the moon obscured the sun, an unnatural stillness fell, accompanied by a wave of inexplicable disappearances. Pets vanished from locked yards, and more disturbingly, several individuals, last seen moments before totality, were simply gone when the light returned. Panic spread, but amidst the chaos, one survivor's account stood out, a terrifying vision that linked the celestial event to Sumaiya. This witness, a young woman, claimed that as the world plunged into midday twilight, she saw Sumaiya standing alone in a field, not looking at the sky, but staring directly at her. The woman described Sumaiya as being surrounded by an aura of deeper darkness, almost as if the eclipse emanated from her rather than around her. Then, as the last sliver of sun vanished, the witness said Sumaiya raised a hand, and figures, shadowy and indistinct, seemed to emerge from the ground around her, coalescing from the intensified gloom. These figures then moved towards the town. The witness hid, overcome with a primal fear, and when the sun's light finally broke through again, Sumaiya and the shadowy figures were gone, leaving behind only an unnerving silence and the mystery of the missing. Was Sumaiya a harbinger of this darkness, or its very conductor? The unsettling aura surrounding Sumaiya extends beyond the visual to the auditory. On rare occasions when she has been reported to speak more than a few cryptic words, the language she uses is utterly alien. Witnesses describe her voice as soft, almost melodic, yet the words themselves are incomprehensible, bearing no resemblance to any known human language, living or dead. Several linguists, intrigued by these persistent reports, attempted to analyze recordings, purportedly of Sumaiya's speech, obtained under dubious and often frightening circumstances by amateur paranormal investigators. The experts were, without exception, baffled. The phonetics, the syntax, the cadence, nothing matched any linguistic database. One renowned philologist, after listening to a particularly clear, albeit short recording, reportedly suffered a complete nervous breakdown. Before his collapse, he was heard muttering that the language wasn't merely unknown, but that it felt wrong, as if it was actively resisting analysis. He claimed, in moments of lucidity, that the language speaks back, that to listen too closely was to invite something into your mind. The recordings themselves are said to degrade quickly, the strange syllables dissolving into static, as if the very act of capturing her voice is an offense against some unknown natural order. What ancient or otherworldly tongue does Sumaiya speak, and what power does it hold over those who dare to listen? In our modern age, a photograph is often considered irrefutable proof of existence. Yet with Sumaiya, even this medium becomes unstable, unreliable. The few photographs alleged to be of her share a disturbing characteristic: they do not last. Over time, her image in these pictures reportedly fades, blurs, or in some of the most unsettling accounts, appears to change in grotesque ways. Faces in the background might become distorted, or dark, viscous substances, described by some as resembling blood or ink, will slowly obscure Sumaiya's form until she is nothing but a stain on the emulsion. Digital images are no safer. Files corrupt, pixels decay, and her likeness vanishes into a mess of digital noise. One particularly infamous photograph, purportedly taken by a tourist near an old abandoned mill, was donated to a small local museum known for its collection of regional oddities. The curator, initially skeptical, placed it in a climate-controlled display. Within weeks, staff reported that Sumaiya's eyes in the photograph seemed to follow them. Then, more alarmingly, they claimed the eyes would occasionally blink. The photograph was eventually removed from public display and sealed in a light-proof vault after multiple staff members refused to work near it. The museum refuses to confirm or deny these claims, but the vault remains sealed, its contents a testament to the unsettling power that even an image of Sumaiya seems to possess. An encounter with Sumaiya does not merely end when she disappears from sight. For many, it continues into the realm of dreams, or more accurately, nightmares. A chilling consistency marks these nocturnal terrors. Those who have seen Sumaiya, even fleetingly, report experiencing the same recurring dream. It begins in a place familiar to the dreamer, their childhood home, their school, their workplace, but subtly wrong, filled with an unnerving silence and oppressive shadows. Then Sumaiya appears, not threateningly, but simply present, watching them with her ageless, knowing eyes. She doesn't speak, but the dreamer feels an overwhelming sense of dread and sorrow. The dream always culminates in the same way. Sumaiya slowly raises a hand, and from her lips, or sometimes just from the air around her, a series of names are whispered. These names are unfamiliar to the dreamer, yet they evoke a powerful sense of loss and ancient tragedy. Many awaken from this dream with a profound sense of unease, some reporting physical manifestations, cold sweats, a lingering scent of damp earth, or even faint, inexplicable scratches on their skin. The shared nature of this dream across disparate individuals suggests a psychic imprint, a message, or a warning, delivered by Sumaiya from the shadowy corridors of the subconscious mind. What are these names, and what forgotten souls do they represent? The legend of Sumaiya often intertwines with places of desolation and forgotten memories, none more so than an abandoned schoolhouse on the outskirts of a village that has seen better days. This particular school had been closed for decades, its doors bolted, its windows boarded. One room in particular, a small former cloakroom on the top floor, was said to have been locked from the inside, the key long lost, its contents a mystery. Local youths, drawn by tales of the school being haunted, would dare each other to approach, but none ever gained entry to the sealed building, let alone that specific room. Until one autumn evening, a group of teenagers, emboldened by bravado, found the main doors of the school inexplicably ajar. Venturing inside, they navigated the decaying corridors, their flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness. They ascended to the top floor, drawn towards the legendary locked room. To their astonishment, the door to this room, previously sealed shut for generations, stood slightly open. Pushing it further, they found the small dust-filled space empty, save for one chilling detail. Scratched crudely into the peeling paint of the far wall, as if by a fingernail, was a single word: Sumaiya. The air in the room was described as unnaturally cold, and the group fled, convinced they had stumbled upon something ancient and malevolent. Among the many whispered tales surrounding Sumaiya, one particularly dangerous ritual circulates among thrill-seeking adolescents. It is said that if one stands before a mirror in a darkened room, holding only a single flickering candle, and chants the name Sumaiya 13 times, she might appear. Most dismiss this as a foolish dare, a game to frighten the gullible, but some who have attempted it speak of an experience that, honestly, transcends mere fright. One such account comes from a teenage girl who, on a dare from friends, performed the ritual in her bathroom, her reflection wavering in the candlelight. As she uttered the name for the 13th time, she reported that her own reflection flickered and changed. For a fleeting, terrifying moment, the face staring back at her was not her own, but that of a pale girl with dark, ancient eyes, Sumaiya. The candle flame allegedly sputtered and died, plunging her into absolute darkness. When her panicked friends forced the door open, they found her pale and trembling, unable to speak coherently for several minutes. When she finally could, she uttered words that chilled them to the bone. She's always on the other side. She just waits for an invitation. The mirror, they say, remained cold to the touch for days. Winter festivals, with their crisp air and joyful gatherings, provide an unlikely but revealing backdrop for another of Sumaiya's unsettling characteristics. In several instances, during particularly frigid evenings, witnesses have observed Sumaiya amidst crowds, yet noticed something profoundly amiss. While everyone around her exhaled visible plumes of breath, ghostly white in the cold air, Sumaiya's presence was marked by an absence. No vapor escaped her lips, no sign that the cold air was being warmed by lungs and expelled. It was as if she wasn't breathing at all, or perhaps that the air she processed was as cold as the environment around her. One particularly vivid account comes from a man attending a town's winter carnival. He saw a young girl, fitting Sumaiya's description, standing alone near an ice sculpture, seemingly unfazed by the biting cold despite her light attire. He was about to offer her a warm drink when he noticed the lack of breath vapor. He stared, perplexed, and she slowly turned her head to meet his gaze. According to the man, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips as she said, in a voice that seemed to carry on the wind itself, "The cold doesn't trouble those who are already cold inside." He reported feeling a chill that had nothing to do with the winter air, a deep internal iciness that lingered long after she had silently slipped away into the crowd. The disembodied voice, a classic trope of ghost stories, takes on a chilling reality in the legend of Sumaiya. Perhaps one of the most credible, or at least publicly documented instances of her vocal presence occurred at a small late-night college radio station. The DJ, a student named Kevin, was hosting his usual call-in show discussing local folklore. A call came through, not on the request line, but on an old, rarely used emergency line that was supposed to be disconnected. The connection was filled with static, but beneath it, a soft, childlike voice whispered, "She's listening. Don't say her name too often." Kevin, initially thinking it a prank, tried to engage the caller, but the line went dead. He made a dismissive comment on air, then continued his show. Minutes later, the studio door, which he had locked, slowly creaked open. There was no one there. The temperature in the studio plummeted, and the equipment began to malfunction. The emergency line, which had shown no light, suddenly glowed red. Shaken, Kevin abruptly ended his broadcast. The recording of that night's show contains the whispered warning, followed by several minutes of dead air before Kevin's panicked sign-off. The studio door, upon inspection, showed no signs of forced entry. It had simply opened. Sumaiya is more than a girl. She's a presence, a ripple in the fabric of what we consider normal, a persistent question mark etched into the landscape of the unexplained. Some say she's a spirit that never passed on, forever tethered to the world of the living by an unknown sorrow or an unfinished task. Others believe she never truly existed in this world in the way we understand existence. Only visits it, a fleeting emissary from a place beyond our comprehension. Her appearance is a subtle tear in the veil between realities. What is the truth? Perhaps it is a mosaic, pieced together from all these chilling possibilities. But here's what we do know, gleaned from the unsettling accounts and the lingering fear she leaves behind. She appears when the sky goes dark, not just the darkness of night, but the encroaching shadows of doubt and forgotten histories. When silence is loudest, when the usual hum of life fades, that is her domain. And when you think you're alone, truly alone with your thoughts, your fears, your quiet moments, that's when you might sense her. That's when you'll hear her voice, soft, cold, familiar, as if from a half-remembered dream or a story told long ago. She'll ask you one question, a question that seems to echo from the depths of time, laden with an ancient, unutterable sadness. Do you remember me? It is a plea, a challenge, a test. But the stories, the whispers, the warnings passed down through generations all offer the same stark advice. Don't answer, don't acknowledge the query, just don't. Because to remember her, to speak her name into the void, might be to invite her to remember you. And some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed again.